Hello guys on Voice of Betrayal, where every lie has a voice. My name is Ryan. I never thought I'd be the kind of man who tells his story to strangers online, but here I am, unable to sleep, typing this while the ghosts of the past sit quietly around me. If you had asked me 5 years ago what happiness looked like, I would have described a quiet home, a wife who kissed me goodnight, and the smell of coffee brewing in the morning. I had that. Or I thought I did. I was never rich. My dad worked construction his whole life until his back gave out, and my mom cleaned houses. They didn't have much, but they stayed together, even when things got ugly. Maybe that's why I clung so hard to the idea of love, of permanence. I didn't want perfection. I just wanted someone who wouldn't walk away. I met Laura at a friend's engagement party. She was sitting alone at a table, scrolling through her phone like she didn't want to be there. I offered her a drink and a bad joke. She smiled, barely, but it was enough. There was something distant about her, like she was there but already halfway gone. I should have listened to that feeling. She was a nurse, kind, hardworking, a little sarcastic in a way that made her feel sharp and alive. We talked all night. We talked every night after that. In 6 months, we were living together. In a year, we were married. Our wedding wasn't big. It rained that day. She laughed as her hair got soaked. I remember thinking, I could live inside that laugh. She had this way of making you feel like you were the only one that mattered in the room. But she also had a way of disappearing, emotionally, I mean. She'd get quiet for days, lost in thoughts she never shared. Still, we were happy. Or at least, I believed we were. We bought a modest house in the suburbs. I worked in HVAC, ran a small but solid business with 3 guys I trusted. She worked night shifts at the hospital. We passed each other in the hallway sometimes, her coming home as I was heading out. But on weekends, we made it work. Lazy Sundays. Grocery runs. Pizza on the couch. The kind of ordinary that feels sacred when you think it'll last forever. The first time I saw a crack, it was subtle. She came home late, much later than usual. Her hair was freshly washed. Her lipstick perfect. I asked her if everything was okay, and she smiled, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "Long night." I let it go. I shouldn't have. For a while, I convinced myself it was just stress. Nursing is hard, the long hours, the burnout. I told myself that's why she'd been distant, why she snapped when I asked simple things like, "How was work?" or "Want to do something this weekend?" She started spending more time out of the house, yoga classes, girls' nights, errands that turned into 4-hour absences. I'd ask what she bought, and she'd wave it off. Nothing important. One night I opened her laptop. I wasn't looking for anything, I swear. I needed to send a file from our shared drive. But a message popped up. Had a great time last night. Same time next week. No name. Just a notification from a messaging app one didn't know she had. I stared at the screen for 5 full minutes. My hands were shaking. I didn't open the message. I didn't even touch the laptop. I just closed it and walked away. I sat in our bedroom, staring at the wall, trying to breathe. My chest was tight, like someone had wrapped a belt around my lungs. When she came home, I watched her. Really watched her. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile you give a stranger at a coffee shop, not your husband. She didn't kiss me. She barely touched me anymore. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling like a vulture around one word, who? The next day, I installed a tracking app on her phone. I hated myself for it. But I needed to know. Over the next 2 weeks, a pattern emerged. Every Thursday night, she'd say she was working late. But her phone showed her at a condo complex on the east side of town. Same building. Same apartment. Every time. I drove there once. Parked across the street. Watched the door like a coward. At 7:48 p.m., she walked in. She didn't leave until 2 a.m. When she came home, I was sitting in the dark. She jumped when she saw me. I asked her where she'd been. She lied. Easily. Effortlessly. Double shift, she said, throwing her keys in the bowl like nothing was wrong. You didn't have to wait up. I stared at her. She didn't flinch. Didn't blush. Didn't stutter. It was like watching someone I didn't know wearing my wife's skin. I didn't confront her that night. I don't know why. Maybe I was still hoping I was wrong. Maybe I wanted her to break down and admit it. But she never did. That's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a second life. I couldn't just sit there anymore. I had to know who he was. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed her. The next Thursday, I left work early, parked 2 blocks away from the condo, and waited. At 7:46 p.m., her car pulled up. She got out, fixed her hair in the mirror, checked her lipstick, and walked in like she'd done it 100 times. I waited 20 minutes before I got out and approached the building. I didn't go inside. Not yet. Instead, I took a picture of the door she entered. Then I waited until she left. 2:10 a.m. I followed her home, staying 2 cars behind. She never looked in the rear view. The next day, I looked up the property records for the address. The condo belonged to a man named Elliot R. Monroe, a financial advisor, 10 years older than me, recently divorced. His profile popped up easily. Polished. Smiling. Expensive suit. I stared at his face for a long time. Was he the one? Or just one of many? I hired a private investigator. I had never done anything like that before, but I didn't trust my own judgment anymore. The guy was expensive, but he was fast. 3 days later, I had a file, a manila envelope filled with photos, time logs, phone records. My wife had been seeing Elliot for at least 4 months. Sometimes during lunch breaks. Sometimes overnight. She told him she was separated. That I was toxic. That she was trapped in a loveless marriage. That part hurt more than the sex. She was building a new story with him, one where I was the villain and he was her savior. I didn't recognize her in those photos. Not just because she was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months, but because she looked free. Like she'd already left me in her mind and was just waiting for the paperwork to catch up. The investigator also found her bank activity. She'd opened a separate account 6 months ago. Transferred $12,000 from our joint savings. Said it was for medical debt. I remember sitting on the couch, holding that envelope, thinking, this is what betrayal looks like. It's not fire and screaming and breaking plates. It's paper. Ink. Hidden passwords and fake smiles. I thought about confronting her. Screaming. Demanding answers. But deep down, I knew what I really wanted wasn't truth. It was something I could never have again. I wanted her to still be the woman I fell in love with. But she was gone. Or maybe she was never really there. I waited until Sunday morning. She was in the kitchen, still in her robe, making coffee like nothing was wrong. Like our life wasn't quietly rotting from the inside out. I sat down at the table, slid the envelope across to her, and said only 2 words. Open it. She blinked. Laughed, nervously. What is this? Open it. She hesitated, then slowly pulled out the contents. The photos. The log of dates. The text transcripts. The bank statement. At first, she just stared at it. No tears. No screaming. Her face went blank, like someone had flipped a switch inside her. Then she looked at me. And said. I was going to tell you. My stomach twisted. Not because of what she said, but because of how she said it. Calm. Controlled. Like she was managing a PR disaster, not confessing to shattering our marriage. For 4 months. I asked. You were going to tell me. She didn't respond. Just looked away, lips pressed into a tight line. I stood up. My hands were shaking. Do you love him? She didn't say yes. But she didn't say no either. She just whispered, I don't know who I am anymore. That hit harder than any confession. I could have handled hate. Or anger. Or even cruelty. But this cold indifference. This emotional ghosting. It broke something inside me. She said she needed space. That she wanted to figure things out. That she'd been unhappy for a long time. All the clichés. All the lines people use when they've already left, they just haven't packed yet. I told her to leave. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She packed a small bag, grabbed her keys, and walked out of our house like she was going to the grocery store. And just like that, 10 years together ended with a whisper, not a scream. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in our bed, alone, surrounded by the smell of her perfume still lingering on the pillow. Wondering how many lies I had mistaken for love. The silence after she left was louder than any argument we ever had. The first few nights, I kept thinking she'd come back. That maybe this was just a dramatic episode and she'd walk through the door again, crying, apologizing, saying she made a mistake. But the door stayed shut. The bed stayed cold. And I stayed broken. I deleted her number but memorized it anyway. I told my friend she cheated, but I left out the part where I still checked her social media at 2 a.m. like some kind of addict. She blocked me, of course. But mutual friends posted pictures, and she was in them. Laughing. Wearing new clothes. Eating at restaurants we never went to because they were too expensive. Meanwhile, I was eating microwave dinners and drinking straight from the bottle. Then came the legal documents. A courier knocked on my door and handed me an envelope. Inside, a formal petition for divorce. Filed by her. Through a lawyer I'd never heard of. She wanted the house. Half my business. And monthly support. I stared at the paper for what felt like hours. My hands went numb. My brain short-circuited. I had never hit her. Never cheated. Never raised my voice in anger. I worked overtime to help her through nursing school. I built our life with calloused hands and sore backs. And now she wanted to take it all, like I was the villain in a story I didn't even know she was telling. I called my lawyer. He was blunt. She's playing smart. You don't have a prenup. You co-signed everything. If we go to court, she could walk away with a lot. I felt sick. Not because of the money, I could earn that back. But because it confirmed what I feared. She had been planning this. Months before she left. Maybe even years. She had positioned everything, the finances, the narrative, the timing, to make sure she came out clean, powerful, and profitable. And me? I was collateral damage. I went through old texts. Photos. Emails. Looking for clues I missed. And I found them. Quiet things. Offhand comments. Emotional withdrawals. Subtle manipulations. All signs I ignored because I trusted her. Because love had made me blind. I thought I had already hit rock bottom. Turns out, I was only halfway down. A week after the divorce papers came, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Elliot, him. The man from the condo. His voice was tense, guarded. I think we should talk. I didn't say anything. I wanted to hang up, but something in his tone, not arrogance, not guilt, fear, maybe, made me pause. We met at a park near the city, in broad daylight. Two strangers, both fooled by the same woman. He looked exhausted. Pale. A shell of the confident man I'd seen in the photos. She told me you were abusive, he said. That you threatened her. That you cheated first. That you controlled everything. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was surreal. Did you believe her? I asked. He nodded, slowly. At first. She was convincing. But then, little things didn't add up. She lied about where she lived. Lied about her name, even. I found out her real last name from a piece of mail in her purse. He pulled out his phone and showed me screenshots, texts between her and someone else. Another man. Different from both of us. She was seeing him while she was with me, Elliot said. And using your money to fly out to meet him. I felt cold. Not angry. Not shocked. Just numb. Like I'd stepped outside my own body. She said she was done with you, he added. But now she's saying I was just a distraction. That she was using me to get you to react, so she could claim emotional distress in court. That broke me. She had manipulated both of us, and maybe more. She was building a narrative, piece by piece. Playing people against each other like chess pieces. Every move calculated. Every tear rehearsed. Elliot said she was now seeing a fourth man, a lawyer. Her divorce lawyer. Of course. Of course she was. At that point, I didn't know whether to scream or collapse. I went home and stared at the mirror for a long time. I didn't recognize myself. What do you do when your whole life, your marriage, your love, your loyalty, was a stage, and you were just the fool who didn't know it was a show? That night, I deleted every picture of her from my phone. But the memories stayed. They always do. I couldn't sleep. Again. My mind kept replaying everything, every lie, every night she came home late, every time I believed her smile was real. Elliot had given me everything he had, texts, voicemails, even a recorded conversation. It painted a picture I hadn't wanted to see. But now I saw it clearly. She wasn't confused. She wasn't lost. She was deliberate. A master manipulator who built a safety net of men, emotional sponsors, financial buffers, legal backups. I was the foundation. The steady one. The builder. The reliable fool who paid the bills while she played her game. And I had options now. I could fight. I could burn everything to the ground. Go to court, expose her lies, call Elliot as a witness, subpoena her texts. I had the evidence. She might lose everything, the house, the financial support, her credibility. Part of me wanted that. God, I needed that, to make her feel an ounce of the ruin she left behind. But then, there was the other voice. The one whispering late at night. What if you just walked away? No revenge. No drama. No feeding the cycle she thrived on. What if I didn't play her game? I wrestled with it for days. Weeks. I consulted my lawyer, showed him the new material. He said we could fight. You'll probably win, he said, but it'll take months. Maybe years. And she'll drag you through hell for every dollar. Was that worth it? One night, I sat in the empty house, her perfume finally fading from the pillows, her presence like a ghost I couldn't exorcise, and asked myself one question. Do I want to punish her, or do I want to be free? And that's when it hit me. She already took my past. I wasn't going to give her my future too. I called my lawyer the next day. Settle, I said. She can keep the car. I'll keep the house. No support. Northwest Moore Court. I'm done. He paused. Are you sure? Yes. I could almost hear the papers hitting the desk as he nodded. It wasn't peace. Not yet. But it was the beginning. I started therapy. I sold the bed we shared. I stopped checking her Instagram. Elliot and I never spoke again. We were both just victims passing through the same storm. Months passed. Some nights, the pain came back like a knife in the ribs. But most nights, I slept. And when I woke up, I wasn't angry. Not anymore. It's been a year. A full year since she walked out of our front door and never looked back. And I wish I could say I've completely healed, that I'm over it, whatever that means. But the truth is, some scars don't fade. They become part of you. I still remember the sound of her laugh, the way she used to tuck her hair behind her ear when she lied. I remember the way her hand felt in mine, and the cold, hollow way she said, I need space. But I don't miss her anymore. That's the difference. I've moved apartments. Painted new walls. Bought a dog. I wake up to silence, and it's no longer haunting, it's peaceful. I joined a gym. Started cooking again. Read books I'd ignored for years. And, one night, I opened a notebook and started writing this story. Not because I needed revenge, but because I needed to remember that I survived it. I survived her. There was a time I thought I'd never trust again. That every woman would remind me of her. But pain, if you let it, teaches you things comfort never could. Like how to set boundaries. How to spot manipulation. How to love yourself enough to walk away. And maybe, someday, I'll love again. But not from a place of emptiness, from wholeness. To the men out there listening, the ones who gave everything and were left with nothing, I see you. I was you. And I promise, it does get better. You might never get the apology. You might never get closure. But you don't need it. Because the truth is, freedom doesn't come when they leave. It comes when you stop chasing the version of them that never existed. And now, I sleep at night. Not because the story has a happy ending, but because I'm no longer waiting for one. I made my own.